I got a hot take for you guys that you've probably never heard before. I think Studio Ghibli movies are pretty good. As controversial as that statement may be, I have good reason to believe this. There's a magic to these films that can't really be found anywhere else. Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle. These are some of the best animated movies ever made, and you don't need me to tell you that. Everybody loves these films, and they are some of Ghibli's most recognizable movies for a good reason. But out of their most popular films, the one I find myself thinking about most often isn't any of these, and it isn't even my favorite Ghibli movie. It's instead Kiki's Delivery Service. This movie is just wonderful. Based off the Japanese novel Witch's Express Home Delivery Service, and directed by obscure filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki, the story is set in a 1950s Europe where witches exist and live amongst people, aiding the inhabitants of the cities they settle in with their magic. Kiki's Delivery Service is a pretty low-stakes film. There isn't really anything too crazy going on that you might expect from a movie with witches and magic in it. It's a very down-to-earth story about a girl figuring out how to live on her own for the first time in the world. Kiki is a very charming protagonist that feels so human and flawed. I've noticed Miyazaki never fails at creating some really great protagonists for his films, but I think what stood out to me most were all of the supporting characters. Osuno is just awesome in every scene she's in, and the part where Kiki sees the sign that Fukuo made for her is so heartwarming. It's funny though, I'm not even sure if Fukuo is even his name, because in the movie he's just credited as bakery worker. The name Fukuo is only ever mentioned in the novel. It's kind of odd that they never named a pretty important character in the movie. And I find myself tearing up at the sheer kindness of these old ladies. Barca especially is a lot of fun, like when she's trying to fly on Kiki's broom, or her being so enthralled by the catastrophe happening on the TV. That one is especially funny. Jeff is the real best character though. I can only ever wish I was as good at chilling as he is. Dude even shuts the door when he goes back inside. This whole film has such a whimsical feeling. All of the scenes with Kiki flying are just breathtaking. These aerial shots of the cities and countrysides are so gorgeous, especially the opening scene of Kiki flying, with the music playing from the radio and Kiki traveling through the night with all of the towns and cities being lit up below. It's such a nice vibe. And these crowd shots of people working or just going about their day-to-day lives make the whole world feel so alive, with a large part of that being due to the incredible animation. The animation of Studio Ghibli films have been discussed with great detail in dozens of other videos, but one thing that's always stood out to me is the amount of effort and passion put into every frame of these films. There's a moment from the documentary A Kingdom of Dreams and Madness that I find myself thinking about when watching these films. It's the scene where Miyazaki is instructing one of his animators to fix some tiny detail he saw in one of the movie's crowd shots. Details that almost nobody watching would probably notice. This focus on making every little detail polished is part of what makes these films feel so special. You can look at almost any moment from this movie, and there was probably some person who spent tens of hours on that specific shot. Something as simple as Kiki sleeping on the train full of hay, or peeking her head out of a train cart is imbued with so much character and life. Miyazaki is a master at telling his stories through visuals alone. I love these moments that allude to a much larger world that we don't get to see, or elements that don't ever get fully explained, like keeping the reason that Gigi stopped talking a mystery, leaving it up to the viewer to come to their own conclusion. There's something very refreshing about that. Not going in depth on every aspect of the world makes it feel so much more vast and alive. But between all of the whimsy and wonder in this story, there's also these very relatable and personable themes of growing up, losing the passion for something you once loved, and burnout. You can feel how personal these ideas were to Miyazaki through moments like Kiki's conversation with Ursula, or in one of my favorite lines from the movie, where Kiki talks about why she used to love flying a lot more before it became her job. But what I love most is that the story emphasizes just how truly kind most people can be. When a lot of stories seem to focus on how awful humanity is, it's refreshing to see one that highlights that it's not all bad. The movie is able to express the highs and lows of what life can offer you in such a genuine feeling way. Kiki's Delivery Service is a timeless classic, which has a message that I think can resonate with people no matter the age or generation. I'd put it up there in my top 3 Ghibli films of all time. I have no clue if that's a polarizing placement for it or not. I've had friends tell me they think Kiki's is a mid-Ghibli movie, which I can sort of understand where they're coming from. It's a very low-stakes film that doesn't have the crazy action of Princess Mononoke or the madness of Spirited Away's setting, but that mundanity is kind of the charm of it to me. Everything from the animation, music, and writing is combined together to make such a sweet little film that I can't help but resonate with. My name has been Goob. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time.